Hello, everyone, and welcome to IET India's Walk the Tech Talk series Season 2 in association with India Automated. In this season, celebrated author Pranjal Sharma will be in conversation with some eminent industry experts that IET India has identified, giving you an insight into the world of future technologies. So, without further ado, I will now welcome Pranjal to take over and drive the conversation for today's episode, which is on a very interesting topic, which I'm sure is going to be exciting for each and every one of you. So I will just bring in Pranjal. Hi, Pranjal.
Hi, how are you, Jani?
Hi,
Good to
I'm
see you.
good. I'm good. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thanks.
And I would request you to drive the session for today's conversation. Also invite and introduce our next guest, our special guest for this series, and also tell the viewers about the topic today. So I'm just going to call on our guest.
Hi, Jani. Hi, Pranjal. Good morning.
Hi, Kush. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Hi, my pleasure.
All right, so I leave it to both of y'all and hope we have a wonderful session. Thank you so much. I'm going to be away now.
Thanks. And to everybody who's watching, welcome to Walk the Tech Talk Season 2 with the IET. I'm Pranjal Sharma, and joining me is Kush Agarwal, is founder of YellowSkye, which is a drone services company. And the topic and the theme of our discussion today is drones in our daily lives. And it's actually a very fascinating concept because, until a few months ago, we thought that drones were only weaponized machines. Of course, we saw some of that with these tiny whirring sounds hovering over various weddings. But drones are mainstream now, and they are impacting our lives in far more ways than we can imagine. From defense, what you've seen, to civil, from municipal issues to civil issues, from our professional lives to our personal lives. And I think that's a great point to discuss with Kush, who's a pilot himself and then went ahead and launched his company, YellowSkye. But let's get a sense first from Kush about where we are. Kush, Indians are now getting comfortable with the idea of drones. Tell us, where is the drone industry and the drone services sector in India right now?
Thanks, Pranjal. Pranjal, thank you for that intro. So you're absolutely right. People are realizing, or industry is realizing the use of drones and the utility that they have outside of the defense arena. In India, we made some huge strides in the last 18 months or so with the launch of the civil aviation policy on drones, where the regulation was launched to enable drones. And it was a very huge step in the direction of actually commercially using drones effectively for civil applications. So I think that's a very big step. There are challenges, no doubt, by virtue of some of the things you touched upon, people's privacy, security, of course, in a country like ours is a big, big concern. And drones being remote, that's something all of us are concerned about. But there is a lot of interest and a lot of interesting use cases that are developing and that both government and industry are beginning to realize. So I do think that the industry is only going to grow once these regulatory challenges are sort of ironed out.
So where are we on the policy? Because, the policy was announced in December 2018, and basically it has rolled out all of last year. So effectively, we've just had about a year, less than a year and a half of a regulatory environment where people know what they can do. But from what I understand is that even to operate, own, or fly a drone of a certain size, you need to have a license. You need to be experienced in that matter. So where are we on this? Are these regulations encouraging enough? Are they helping in the expansion of the drone industry?
So, good question, Pranjal. The regulation is still effective in its original avatar, which you are right requires. There's a lot of checks and balances in place regarding the drones meeting a certain digital protocol or authorization before they are permitted to fly. And it has been a huge challenge to set up the entire backend and get manufacturers to come on board. Not every manufacturer is willing to play ball, and it's a very end-to-end secure system But what the industry we're beginning to hear is that the regulator is trying to roll with the punches, and they are looking at a drone policy 1.5 or a 2.0 that is due soon, wherein they will, try to, bring together technological challenges along with the security and requirements of the country. So it is encouraging, and one very encouraging thing, which makes you realize that things are moving is last week there was a notification given out by the ministry to allow drones for COVID response, for government agencies, and that's definitely a step in the right direction and heartening for the industry to see that the government and the regulator is working hard to make this happen.
So that's a great point, Koshino, because I think COVID and the lockdown is pushing both the government and enterprises and, of course, citizens to adopt technology which we would have been, a little slower to respond to. But I think
So,
a crisis sometimes triggers such kind of behavior. But tell us about how you got into this. You were flying passenger aircrafts for various airlines for several years. How did
yeah.
Yellow Sky come about?
So I was an airline pilot, and in my last 2 years, an airline executive. And one is I was looking at an entrepreneurial venture. It's always been a dream. I'm passionate about aviation, and I really believe, Pranjal, that the future of aviation is unmanned. So while we are seeing drones in a small sense today, I do believe, as crazy as it sounds, that in 15 years we will be flown by unmanned airplanes, and
What will
the
happen to
use.
all the pilots?
Sorry.
What will happen to all the pilots?
Well, that's a big question, and that's I truly believe not only in aviation but in other industries, 7 or 10 years down the line, half of us won't have our jobs. So, but it comes with certain advantages. Today you look at a drone. The way I put it, Pranjal, is a drone is a perfect tool for anything that is, dull, dirty, or dangerous. And we'll see this across industries, whether it's commercial passenger transport, whether it's survey, whether it's delivery, whether it's mapping, town planning. Typically, these are jobs that are taken on by humans. They're dreary, they're laborious, they're subject to human error, and automation or autonomous vehicles is really revolutionizing this part of the.
So, what is the most exciting project you've done with the drones so far?
There are a couple of projects that were very, very, very interesting. We did this project for a Mumbai civic body where we had to map a huge swath of the slums and mangroves because of they were planning to build a flyover, and you realize how much planning and care goes into this because it would involve displacing slum dwellers as well as protecting the natural environment. So the only way for them to actually find the correct route for this flyover was to create a detailed map and structure of the entire lay of the land. And we even went into an exercise of counting the number of shanties and mapping the square footage of the mangrove area, giving them 5 or 6 potential alignments. Very, very interesting project. Another one we did was this was a more social kind of project for a large global NGO that was looking at electrifying a village in India. And we mapped the entire village. We mapped the number of electricity poles, and we were able to create like a diameter of the throw of light, and then plan how to electrify this village. Typically a project which would have taken 3 months, we were able to do in 3 days and give them an output and move them forward. So these are two projects which I found very exciting. Other than this, we are seeing a lot of potential with AI and machine learning coming into the fray with image recognition. So
Right.
there's potential for us to leverage this technology to provide analytics on the images we process, both for inspections, for planning, for town planning, for smart city applications, for very big use cases, security, surveillance, for law enforcement, where we are able to pick up things using machine learning in the image that a human eye would find difficult to capture. So very, very interesting use cases.
So that's actually a good way to describe it because drones are actually three parts. One is, of course, as you said, the manufacturing of the device and the machine itself. That can be a very tiny drone which can fit into the palm of your hands to a large one, which of course flies like a unmanned plane. As you said, it could even carry passengers someday. And second part is the flying part of it, which is where your people and professionals with your kind of experience come in terms of navigating, knowing where to fly, knowing where not to fly. Because I think, unlike planes, if every citizen has a drone, I think it's going to be quite a mess in our in the air if you see people just flying without any control. So I think that to that extent, the regulation is important. And the third piece, I think, is the AI on image recognition, which is critical because once you grab the data, you have to know what to do with it. Tell us, where are we headed now? Because what does the future look like in India? You've given examples which seem to give us the indication that both government bodies, enterprises, citizens are all adopting it in a very rapid way. What needs to be done, and where do you see the drone services? While it's part of our daily lives, I guess it's going to enhance more. How do you see it in India over the next 2 to 3 years?
So, Pranjal, I think the biggest challenge for an industry like this to take off is putting together the ecosystem. And we've embarked on that journey. What I mean by ecosystem is, one is the regulation, of course, policy, regulation, procedures associated with that. The second is actually getting investment into the industry to have professional players that are ready to meet the regulation. The third is, of course, acceptance by industry or a realization that this works. A lot of people that have tried drones in the last few years with grey market players have not been satisfied by what they've got. But today there are a lot of professional players that are providing valuable outputs. So the third is for industry to be able to devise and accept use cases of drones. And I think the fourth is safety and privacy. So for this framework that the government has envisioned, for this to come together to allow drones to operate in a safe manner. And of course, this is all fed by things like manufacturing companies, you have services companies, you have AI and image processing companies, which are seeing, interested in getting a pie of this economy. But the challenge is going to be for government, industry, and say consumer or customer base to tie this all together. It's fragmented today. The challenge is going to be to tie it together, and there is movement in that direction. So we are in this industry because we see the movement and we see professional players. There's big investments that have come in. So we see this happening in the next 2 3 years, and some very interesting use cases emerging.
Thanks, Kush. I think on that optimistic note, we'll have to end our conversation. I see that you've entered the right space at the right time with the right set of experience. So we do see, the sector expanding if more and more people like you enter as entrepreneurs, as startups. So thanks so much for joining us. And for all of you who are watching, thank you for joining Walk the Tech Talk Season 2.
Thanks, Pranjal. Thank you.